We are now going to start off by taking a look at the tones section. As there are 800 tones available using Casio's excellent AIX sound engine, and they cover all the usual categories, and then some, I'm not going to exhibit multiple tone examples in this video, as I've already released a separate video demonstrating a wide selection of them. Check out the description box below or visit my channel content for the link. What I am going to do is show you a handful of tones and the performance features available to give you a brief idea of what they can sound like and what you can do with the extra tone shaping features, because this I feel is one of the biggest strengths that the S1000V and the S500 have. So the very first tone is the staged piano, and this is how it sounds. Very nice sound, and what you can do with this, you can also use sustain. There's a sustain button right here. I press that, and now we have sustain. I'll turn it off. And I also have a sustain pedal under the table. If I can put my foot on it. So I put my foot on the sustain pedal. Do it again, and I'm going to take my foot off. So we have sustain both via a button and with the pedal under the table, which is connected in the back right here. And the next thing I'm going to show you is that we have velocity. And you have different levels of velocity as well. So this is on normal for the moment. And if I hit the button, we've got heavy and off and also light. So that it's good for expressive playing. I'm generally more of a synth player, so I don't really use velocity. So I normally have it off. So the next thing I'm going to show you is an advanced tone. And these are toned, and let me move it to it as tone number 8, advanced piano. When you get one of those, the little advanced blue light lights up. And the advanced tones, they have extra little features for expression, and depending on what the tone is will depend on how you play, what extra, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Well, expression is a word, I think, cadence, whatever. You get extra features with it. And let me show you with this one, the advanced piano pad, if you just play it like a normal piano, sound like a normal piano. But what happens is, if you play a chord, you get a string backing. So you get the advanced piano with a sort of a string pad behind it. But you have to play more than 3 notes or more at once to get it. If you play 2 notes, you don't get it. Play 3 notes, then it kicks that in. But it only does it on one chord. Once you've activated it, you can't use it on another one if you're holding that one down. So if I play the bass notes with no strings, then play the chord, you won't get the strings with the bass. But it's a nice little feature. It's the advanced pads, and there's a number of them that you can select from. They all have their own different characteristics and ways of expressing them when you play them. So where are we going from here? We're going to show a nice synth sound. And this is, I put him in registration banks. This is that nice sort of very typical sort of synth sound with a lot of lead synth sound with lots of portamento. Quite a nice, powerful sound that, and it's lots of fun to play with, and it's got Portamento, which you can adjust that, and I'll show you that later. But what I'm going to show first of all is layering. So what you can do with this with the S1000V is you can split the keyboard. You can split it and have a lower kind of bass section, and you could then split to the upper half, but you can have two layers simultaneously. Each layer can have a completely separate tone, so you have a total choice of whatever tones you want to mix together. So I'm going to layer it with this one here, and this is the VGC God sound, which is a really powerful sound. So this is how that sounds now with the layering. If I turn the layering off, back on, you have a combined, two tones combined, which can really make this very powerful. You also have the option, let me check on my notes here, of balancing them. So let's say, for instance, one was too loud and you said, well, I actually want that a bit lower. Then you go into the menu and then you find balance. And then you've got upper one, upper two, and that's lower. Each of the sections of the keyboard, depending on how you set up the keyboard, has its independent volume. So let's say the U1 was that kind of lead synth sound, but I can turn it down. And now it's actually turned off. So it gives you a lot of control of exactly how you want to mix the two tones together, which is a very nice feature to have. Let me put it back to whatever it was, 100, I think it was maximum, or 120. And see, so that was the second one. The second zone, which is U2, that's not the band, that's the upper two layer. That's the volume there. So you can select each one using these buttons. So what am I going to show you about now? Oh, Portamento. So let me go back out. I'm going to take the layering off. You can set this part up here, this menu with these sections, with each button, you can customize that however you want. And I've already preset this because normally it was showing sustain, you might remember it previously. And now I'm making it show upper port for the Portamento. And if you press and hold, it'll take you into the Portamento menu. So if I part Portamento, at the moment it's showing both layers have Portamento. I can turn them off. And now I can turn the first layer on. And I can have the second one. But I've not actually got it layered yet. So if I go to layer, now layer it, and go back into the Portamento, you have both of those upper layers, the two layered tones, both have Portamento, and I can select which ones I want to have Portamento. But not only that, and now I think we've got both those layers, two tones in the upper layers have Portamento, but I can actually change independently the Portamento time. So, for instance, they're both set on, they weren't both set on the same thing, never mind. So let's make the first layer a really long tone. So I'm going to go up there. You might be able to hear, I hope you can hear, that one is got a much slower Portamento than the other. And if I go back to the balance thing, I can demonstrate that by showing, if I turn off the second layer, so we've got the first part playing. You can see the speed of that. Now, if I turn that second layer up and this first layer down, you can hear there's a complete difference in their time. So let me put that back. So it's another really handy thing you've got. Oh, sorry. Go back to the time. Portamento time. What have we got? We got 32 on the upper one and 108 on the other. So let's just put that down to 32 so they match. And now both layers have the same volume and they have the same portamento time. That's another very flexible, very powerful feature when you can start mixing these tones together and also changing things like the portamento, the balance, and there's all sorts of other things you can do as well, which we are coming on to. Next thing we're going to show you is pitch bend. So let me get back out of here. I'm going to turn the layering off. So we just have that lead synth sound. And if we go into the menu, then scroll to pitch bend. And now I can change it. At the moment it's set for an octave. And I can change it to 2 octaves. Then I can change it to 5. I think that's the 5th, might be. So let's put it back up to 12. So now if I put another layer in, I can put the VZ God tone in. I can go back to pitch bend and I can independently set. You can actually see there, U1 is 1 octave and upper 2, this is 2, whatever it is. And you can hear that 1 is not moving up as high as the other, but I can adjust it. Go to, say, 5. I can match it up to an octave. So again, you have so much control on how you can set them up, and it also applies to the lower section. So if you split the keyboard and have a lower tone as well, so you can have 3 separate tones playing simultaneously. You only have 1 pitch bend, but 1 pitch bend can affect all 3 of the layers and can affect them all differently depending on how you set it up with the bend range and what was the other thing we do, and the portamento. So pretty powerful feature to have. Next, we're going to look at modulation, and the S1000V has 3 assignable knobs, K1, K2, and K3, which can be assigned to whatever parameter you want to assign to them. So it's a very, very flexible, very programmable. I've assigned K3, this little knob here, which is just above the pitch bend wheel thing, and that's now modulation. So I can show you. So I can play the X Synth lead. That's the standard straight tone, but I can now adjust the modulation. However much I want to bring into it. And it's the same thing. You can set it to affect all the different layers. Now, to set the modulation is a little bit weird. This is where this is kind of a little bit of the idiosyncrasies come into play here, because you have to assign the parameter to one of the knobs to change it. And once you've changed it, you can actually then reassign the knob back to something else. And probably better if I show you. If I go to the menu, and then I go to knob, which is right there. And as you can see here, I've actually set K1 and K2 to cut off from resonance for the filter, but K3 is set for the modulation. Now, if I hit K3, you can also see that at the moment, it's only affecting upper 1, the first tone. I can actually change it to, and select rather, the upper 2 and the lower. So I can make it affect all or none or any combination. So, but what you also have to do, if you want to change some of the parameters of the modulation, then use this big wheel here. So you've got modulation range, which currently is 63. I can change that. So let's set it much lower to 10. Then I have to reassign K3 back to modulation. And now I've got a much less range going on. And now I've lost, no I haven't, yes I have modulation. Right, modulation range, and I want the greater range, I then reassign the K3 knob back to modulation range, set it using this wheel, modulation range, I set it using the knob it's assigned to, and it will stay on that 63, even though I can go back. I can now change K3 from modulation range back to modulation, which is 0, but it won't change the modulation range. It will only change modulation. Whatever the parameter it's actually set to, that's the only one it will affect. But anything was previously affected, it will remember that number, if that makes sense. So this is now should be the big range. And as said, you can set it so that it will affect any of the layers that you want, upper 1, upper 2, lower, any or all. So it's another powerful feature. So you have to spend some time setting the keyboard up to exactly how you want it to get it's very customizable, basically. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so let's move on to splitting the keyboard. Go back here, and we're still in the right area, I believe. Yes, split. And it's already all set up. So I set here, split. And I got a synth bass on this section. On the upper section, upper 1, I have the lead sound. And I can change where on the keyboard I want to split it. So I hold down split, and it tells me where the split point is, which is G#3. Which is there, I believe. To change it, if I want to move up, I have to use this, unfortunately. You can either do the plus or minus or the little jog wheel. I press plus. And that's how you can set it up or down or wherever you want to go. It is worth bearing in mind that when you do split the keyboard to have a lower section, then you can't change the upper part. You have to unsplit it like this. So now I can change, say, upper 1. And if I want to layer, which I could do that as well, I can layer it and I can set the layering section. And then I press split. And now I've got the synth bass. So now I have 3 tones playing. So I've got the bass section in the lower section and the lead synth sound and the VZ, VZ, C God sound layered on the 2 upper parts. So again, it's really, really powerful, quite impressive what you can do, and it starts to sound really good. So while we've got the keyboard split like this, I'm going to show you the arpeggiator. The arpeggiator, I think at the moment it's set just for the upper section. So it's very, very, very flexible, but at the moment, no, it's not set for the upper section. This is the ARP button. I can press hold on it, and it's set to screw up. Oh, it should be on upper 1 and 2. I know what's happened. Part. No. Why is it not on? This is weird. Upper. Okay, set on this one, arpeggiator, part, lower, upper. Not sure what happened there, but anyway, at the moment it's set on the upper layer, upper 1 and 2, but I can change, again, any combination. can't have all three at once by the looks of it. You can have upper 1, upper 2, I think I've got one layer a bit quieter, upper 1 and 2, and lower. And I forgot to mention as well, you also have the hold, and I can press hold, and it makes it nice and easy. You can just hit the keys, and it just plays it. And I'll keep playing it until you trigger it with some more keys. So that's a lot of fun, and it won't stop until you turn it off. And I forgot to mention as well, you have, I think it's 150 arpeggios to choose from, so there's tons of them. That's not one of them. Oh, because I turned it off. Let me put it back on. Oh, I'm going all over the place here. Right. There's all sorts of combinations of everything you could think of that you could probably want. Some they got effect. This one's got panning going left to right. So turn that off, and as you can see, that's another very flexible thing you could do with this, and very powerful arpeggiators. Very flexible how you can use them across the keyboard, and they're great fun to play as well. Performance controls, and this I'm going to show you how you can start modifying the preset tones. And though this is mostly a preset keyboard, you can actually quite drastically change the tones using some of these available parameters. And this one here, I can change the attack and release of a sound. I've got assigned to these, the K1 and K2, I've assigned attack to K1 and release to K2. So what sound have we got here? We've got the saw lead, now classic sawtooth lead sound. But I can actually change the envelope, basically the amp envelope for saw lead 2. You can really make them sweep in. And I can also change the release time. At the moment, it's not really, you let go and it stops playing. So that's how that sound originally played. But if I then really change the attack time, maybe not too much, and then put a bunch of release, it sounds completely different. Sounds like it's almost a completely different sound, and that came from, let me put this back to roughly what it was before. from this. To this. So it's another very powerful way of using expression or changing the sound rather that you have available that you can apply to any of the tones that you're using. Now, I'm also going to show you can do it with layering as well, and you can set them independently. It's a bit of a convoluted way because that knob thing I showed you earlier. But if I put the layer thing on here, so you've got this hard rock organ. So you can hear that hard rock organ. Then you should be able to hear the first layer, the sawtooth, sweeping in. Because only the first layer is being affected by the envelope change. But I can also change it so that the hard rock organ is also affected. I go into the menu, to knob, and the attack time. And again, see how now the attack time is only applied to upper 1. I can apply it to upper 2. And now, oh, maybe not. What have I done wrong? Maybe because I've not actually set it for it. Now you hear that the organ sound is being affected by the attack. So you can adjust all these settings, and also you can set them independently, and then you can just leave the knob alone, and you have them at different settings, and it will remember that. Even if I change this knob to something different, but I then have to go into the knob menu, say attack time. If I go to cutoff, it will still play. It will still remember the parameters for the envelope that I'd set for those 2 layers. It's a great feature to have and really shows what you can do with this. So, okay, now I'm going to move on to the filter. So let me set up this registration, recall this registration I set up for it. That's bank number 4. This is very, very similar. And so we've got this, we've got the slow envelope thing. And I'm going to use that pedal to hold it. Let me do that. There's some resonance, and now I'm going to sweep the filter. I've let go of the foot pedal there. So that's something similar to all the other things we've been looking at with regards to these knobs, and also some of those parameters which you can change with the knobs. So at the moment, I've just had one. Hang on, let me go back. Let me play you with the synth brass, and I can show you that the filter is only being applied to the first layer. So. Synth brass isn't being affected. But I can make it be affected by going to the knobs, So cutoff, and as we see at the moment, only upper 1 is being selected to work with the cutoff. I can select upper 2. I go back, I think the resonance was already set, yes. So now I've set both layers to be affected by the filter. And as with all the other things we've been looking at, you can apply that effect to any layer you want and any combination of layers you want. So it's another really, really powerful feature of this keyboard. You've probably noticed that the filter is paraphonic. So there's only one filter that affects everything that's being played, and it doesn't re-trigger. Also, there's no LFO, so it can only be activated manually. You can only sweep filters manually. Unfortunately, you can't set it with an envelope generator or as an LFO and have it sweeping automatically, which is a bit of a shame that. However, there is a sort of a workaround, at least there's one that I found out, by using, and let me go to another registration I've set up in bank 12.1. Right. Now, what I've done here, I've actually applied a DSP, one of the many active DSPs that this keyboard, the S1000V, has, and it's the wah effect. It's called LFO wah. So a wah is basically a filter. That's the whole point of having a wah. And I've applied it to this sound, with the LFO set, and now this is how it sounds. So we have something that does actually sound like a filter, because it is a filter, with a sweep, an automatic sweep. I don't have to touch any of the knobs, and it will do it for me, which is really, really handy. I'm going to show you where it is. If I go to menu, go to active DSPs, and you can see for the upper 1, that's the upper 1 layer, and you can apply independent DSPs per layer. That's another feature, we'll come on to that. It has some pros and cons. So at the moment, this is set to LFOR, which is number 19. I think there's 100 blockchains of DSPs. We'll cover that later. By going to the parameters, so you've got input level, resonance, which is typical of a filter, manual, which I think is the cutoff frequency, I think, because that's how it seems to operate, and then the rate, which will be the rate of the LFO, and how the depth of the LFO, what kind of waveform you want the LFO to use, and wet level, dry level, blah, blah, blah. So you've got all those parameters for an automatic filter sweep. Oh, I forgot to mention that I've actually applied the LFO wah, some of the parameters. I've got the manual parameter on K1 and the rate on K2 and depth on K3, so I can actually change in real time some of the parameters. So if I play the filter, so that's the manual control, like the filter cutoff frequency. I got the sustain pedal press. I can change the rate, change the depth. So you've got a lot of control, and it's really great fun to sweep the filter there and to adjust the parameters with an automatic filter sweep using the LFO wah effect. But if you wanted to have that LFO wah applied to both layers, U1 and U2, upper 1 and upper 2, simultaneously and synchronized, you can do it. What you have to do is you have to apply 2 incidences of the LFO wah, one to U1 and one to U2, upper 1 and upper 2 layers, and with exactly the same parameters. And when you do that, they're then synchronized. And I have a registration set here, 4.2. And this is what I've done. So we've got the sawtooth and the polysaw, the two separate layers, both with LFOR DSPs activated on each one and with exactly the same parameters. So when I play them, they're now completely synchronized and they'll sweep exactly the same way. The disadvantage, if I actually then start changing the settings, it will only apply to one of the layers. I cannot find a way of getting it to lock onto both layers and both parameters of the same DSP activated twice or applied twice. I'll show you. So if I do this, and now I've got the whole pedal down, sustain pedal. As soon as I touch one of these knobs, as you can hear, that it's only applying it to one of the layers. Though that's kind of a really nice effect. It's a real shame that there's no way that you can actually link them, or synchronize them rather. Or really, what I think the biggest issue is why there isn't an LFO for the actual filter. So I didn't have to use the active DSP in the first place. And it could be that the global filter would only need that one LFO or an envelope generator, which would have avoided this problem. So I guess I'm kind of pushing the S1000V's limits a bit here, and it's still very, very, very powerful. But that's just a small little niggle there, so that just to get that real-time control of the LFO, to get those kind of bloopy, swooping, whatever filter going crazy, bubbling all over the place with both layers simultaneously, almost as if you had a DCO, a dual oscillator type synth rather, and it should have been one filter for both layers rather than having to apply them separately for each one. Well, there is one filter for both layers, but unfortunately it doesn't have an LFO, and if you use the active DSP LFOR, which technically is classified as an effect rather than a filter, so that's probably why it's not synchronized, I think. I don't know. But it's a shame. But maybe a firmware upgrade. So Casio, if you're listening, a firmware upgrade just to link to those two DSPs together. And the LFOR, so if you use the same DSP twice on two layers, you can link them and use the same control knob, because you can link two separate DSPs and activate separate parameters simultaneously, but not the same DSP applied twice with the same parameters, if that makes sense. But either way, still some pretty nice sounds. Now we're going to take a more in-depth look at the active DSPs. There are 100 blockchains of active DSPs to choose from with the CT-S1000V, and each blockchain can have up to 4 effects per blockchain. You can't actually say, you can't customize your own blockchain. You can't say, I want a delay and phaser and reverb and chorus and put it together. But you'll probably find within those 100 preset blockchains that combination has already been selected for you, that it's already available. So it's not really an issue. But also, each of those effects can be switched on or off independently, and each one has its own parameters, and they're very, very, very customizable and very powerful as a result. You'll probably find every possible combination of effects already there, and if you don't, it's probably not a very good combination to have. But anyway, so let me show you one of them, and I'm going to show you, I think it's called the wah phase. If I go to the menu, and then we got active DSPs, wah phase. Ironically, I think there's an error in the user guide, because the user guide says the wah phase is actually number 97. So sort that one out, Casio, for revision 1.2. What are we going to do? So we got this one on here, and if I play it, okay, it's not actually doing anything at the moment, because I know why. I had to go to the parameter. So hit the parameter, and now you can see there's four effects available within this blockchain. There's number 98, which is the wah phase. You have an LFO wah, a phaser, a delay, and a tone control. And at the moment, none of these are switched on. They would normally be switched on if you select them, but I've turned them off in this preset with this registration, so I can demonstrate to you by switching each one on and showing you what each one does. I select LFO wah, and now I've got all these different parameters: resonance, manual, rate, depth, waveform, sine, wet level, blah, blah, blah. And bypass is on, which means I switched on the bypass, so it's bypassing the effect. I can turn it off. And with it turned off, now it sounds like this. And that was the LFO wah, which we used as a filter just previously. So I can now put the bypass back on, and if I go back, now I can select the phaser. And phaser, the same thing. You got manual, rate, depth, waveform, input level, wet level, bypass. I'm going to turn the bypass off. We now have the phaser. So that's another effect that we've got there. Now if I put it back on again, and now I'm going to show you the delay. Same thing, delay, got tons and tons of parameters to choose from: the feedback, the delay time, wet levels, dry levels, blah, blah. Turn off the bypass, go back, and now we have some delay. I can turn everything on, so let's try that. So almost everything on back, and LFO, and oh no, input level. I'm on the wrong bit. Bypass off. Right now I've turned on, by turning the bypass off, the LFO, phaser, and delay, and that's what all three of those will sound like. As you can hear, that's kind of an interesting effect, and of course you can add, these are already pre-assigned, the K1, K2, K3. I thought it might be modulation. Of course you can have pitch bend. And everything else, you can assign the filter to these controls and start having the global filter applied to it. So there's huge amounts of customizability that you can use with these. The next thing I'm going to show you is how you can apply independent active DSPs per layer. So each layer can have its own DSP applied to it, independently of any other DSP already active on any other layer. You can have the two upper layers, and if you split the keyboard over lower layers, you have three sections of the keyboard. Each one of those three sections can have an independent active DSP. But I've set up this registration here just with the two upper layers, just to show you that you can have two completely different active DSPs. It's already registration 12.4, and if I go to the menu at the moment, this one is called wah phase. And I've just got the upper one active at the moment. So at the moment it's not switched on. But then I can turn it on by going to the active part and then turn it on upper one. That's the wah phase effect. Turn it back off. If I go back to instrument, and now I'm going to layer it with something called progress pluck. And at the moment, that doesn't have any active DSP on it, but I can go to active DSP, then to active part. This is what it sounds like without. And then when I turn it on, also I can turn on the lower one. You could hear that it was being switched on for the upper one layer, the wah phase. And now I can turn on this reamp thing if I change the part of the reamp for U2 for the second upper layer. And that's both layers on. And as said, you could have any combination you want. That just gives you an idea that it probably wasn't the best combination of active DSPs to apply to those two layers, but I just wanted to show you two contrasting active DSPs to show that they were independent of each other and acting on separate layers. And as said, you could have them on all three layers, and there's also a lower layer. Also, I should also mention, I haven't switched the lower layer on here, but whenever you see the active DSP, when it says tone, which is always the first one, that is basically a preset or the optimum preset for that particular active DSP. Or if you select one of the tones, then whatever it says tone, that is, if you go to the parameter settings, that means it's the optimum settings for that from a factory setting, so to speak. But of course, you can customize them as much as you want. So I just thought I'd let you know about that one. That's the active DSPs that we've looked at. They can apply them to all three layers, and you switch them on and off and have them independent and mix them, and they're pretty impressive, some of them. Some of them actually really quite good sounding and very useful. And just to finish up with the effects side of things with the S1000V, I'm going to tell you and show you the system effects. Now, these are separate to the active DSPs. The system effects are more like a global effect that you would find on a mixing desk, and you'd have an effect send. You can put multiple parts through a single effect, and you actually have three system effects, but you can adjust how much of those effects are applied, but they all have the same settings. So it's just like a master reverb, a master chorus, and a master delay. So let me show you where it is. So you go to the menu and scroll to System Effects, and now you can see you have four effects to choose from: reverb, chorus, delay, and something called song rev. I'm not sure what that is. I've not used the song part of this. With each one, say we're on reverb at the moment, you've got a number of presets. So you can turn it off. Tone is the optimum reverb for it that Casio have already decided this is how much reverb we think sounds good for it. Anyway, you got room 1, you can then choose room 1, room 2, room 3, large room, hall, stadium play, delay, blah, 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 blah. You get the idea. Then you also got chorus, same thing. You can't adjust the parameters within them, but you can select from the presets, the deep chorus, flanger 1, flanger, short delay, tone again, so and so, and feedback chorus. And then delay, same thing again. You can't actually adjust the time or the feedback, but it's presets. But I mean, if you want to do all that stuff on tone again, if you want to start affecting all the parameters, then you use the active DSPs for that. Let me just go back. Let me just reset it to make sure it's all as it was when I set it up with this registration. And what you do is to change, or rather to apply the system effects, you have to go into that knob menu, apply or assign one of the knobs, and depending and the layer you want to affect, and then adjust the send level within that, and then you can change the knob and it will just remember whatever you set the send level to. I've set this one up here, so K1 is reverb, K2 is chorus, and K3 is delay. I can adjust the amount of each one I want to apply to this upper level stage piano sound. This is the piano sound on its own. And now I can start bringing in some reverb. And as you can see, you can just have a small amount or lots and turn it off. And the same thing with the chorus, have a little bit of chorus without, little bit, lots, and off. Same thing with the delay. Maximum delay, middling. Get less and less and less, and then until you switch it off. That's the system effects for you. Global effects that can be applied to all three, or any combination, all or none of the three sections of the keyboard, however much you want to apply to each of those three sections of the keyboard. If you have in need of a global reverb, chorus, or delay, it's there for you. And if you don't need it, you switch it off. But it's a great feature to have on top of already all the other active DSPs that are already here. It's just another great little tool in the box, another great little feature of this S1000V. As you can see, the S1000V has a lot of tone shaping options to use with its 800 tones. With the ability to layer two separate tones, as well as being able to apply DSPs independently to each layer, the sky really is the limit. The omission of an LFO and envelope for the main filter is surprising though, as is the issue of not being able to simultaneously control the same parameter in real time with assignable control knobs when two incidences of the same DSP are applied to separate layers. And it would have been nice to have been able to apply a single active DSP block to both layers simultaneously. That would have got around this issue. Maybe a firmware update could address these, Casio. However, despite these limitations, where I may be pushing the S1000V to its limits, hopefully I've been able to show you just how flexible the tones are and how powerful you can make this keyboard sound when you use its features to their full capabilities.
This is my Casio, that's all I know. That's all I know. That's all I know. That's all I know. It was given to me on my birthday.